Stephen Hurahan at Brandmaster Academy, and in this video I want to talk to you about brand positioning. What is it, and what are the 3 keys that you need to build an effective brand positioning strategy? Your brand position is one of the most important, if not the most important element in your entire brand strategy. And the reason that it's so important is that everything else within your brand strategy flows from your brand position. So what is your position? What's it all about? What are we trying to do with our brand position? Well, when you come to the market with a product or a service, you're coming into a marketplace full of your competitors. What you're trying to do is you're trying to stand out and tell your audience why they should remember your brand. What is it that you do differently from all the other competitors in the marketplace, and why should they listen to you and to your brand? So what we're trying to do with your positioning strategy is we're trying to place your brand in the mind of your audience as to why you stand out, why you're different, why they should remember you. What do you give to your audience that's better than the rest of the competition? And that's why brand positioning is so important, because you can come to the marketplace with any product or any service, but if you don't tell your audience why they should remember you, they're not going to know why they should, and they're not going to place you in the right position within their mind because you haven't explained to them the difference that you offer in the marketplace. So your positioning strategy and your brand position is all about defining what you do differently to your competitors, why your audience should remember you, and then go about building a strategy and a communication strategy to communicate that difference to your audience so they remember your brand. Now, this guy is called Philip Kotler, and he's thought of as the father of modern marketing. And Kotler has defined positioning as the act of designing a company's offering an image to occupy a distinctive place in the mind of your target market. Now, the offer he's referring to is the thing that you do differently from your competitors, and the image that he's referring to is the way in which you communicate that difference to your audience. And collectively, those 2 things, your offer and your image, represent the idea, which is exactly how you want your brand to be perceived in the market. What is that idea? What do you want your audience to remember about your brand? And encapsulating that idea and placing it into their mind is what effective positioning is all about. Now, the first key to developing an effective brand positioning strategy is to make it as easy as possible for your audience to position your brand. Now, that might seem a bit strange. Your audience positioning your brand, isn't it the brand that positions your brand? Well, no, this is a common misconception. A lot of people think that when you position your brand in the marketplace, that you are going to position your brand in the mind of your audience, when in fact it's your audience that actually positions your brand. As a brand, what we try to do is we try to influence how they see, how they perceive your brand, so that they place it in a distinct place within their mind. Now, throughout the brand positioning strategy development, we try to identify what place we want to own within our audience's mind. Then we go about developing a communication strategy, developing out the rest of your brand strategy to make sure that the messages that we're sending to our audience will give them the best possible chance at placing our brand in that position that we want to own within their mind. So that is a common misconception about positioning. Your audience positions your brand in their mind. You don't position your brand. You attempt to influence where they position your brand, and you do that through effective communication. Now, the second key to developing an effective brand positioning strategy is to always keep the end goal in mind as you develop it. Now, what we want as an end goal is that when our audience comes across our brand, whether it's through an advertisement, a social post, a piece of content, just by seeing our logo, whether it's on our packaging or on our website, when they come across our brand, whatever the touch point, we want them to associate our brand with an idea. Now, this idea is born within the development of the brand positioning strategy itself. We want to find a differentiator to differentiate our brand from our competitors, and we do that through competitive analysis and by analyzing who our audience is, what they want, the pain points they go through, and we identify a gap in the market. We develop a differentiator around that gap, and then we build an idea around that differentiator. If we're able to get our audience to remember our brand by that idea, then we have succeeded in our brand positioning strategy. Now, once you know what the differentiator is, once you know what the big idea is, you want to then develop that communication strategy around that. And that's why I said earlier, the brand positioning strategy is one of the most important elements in the entire brand strategy, because we now need to develop our communication around what this big idea is, so we're able to plant that idea in the mind of our audience. Now, one key here when it comes to developing this communication strategy is that simplicity is key. We want to make it as easy as possible for our audience to remember what it is that we do differently and what the whole big idea is around our brand, so that when they see our brand, when they come across it, they don't have to think too hard. If we make our audience think too hard, they're never going to remember what it is that we want them to remember, and that idea is not going to sink in, so we're not going to stake a claim for that position in their mind. So that's what we want to do. We want to keep it as simple as possible and remember that end goal. We're trying to own a position in their mind, so that when they see our brand, when they come across our brand, they associate us with an idea that we've defined in that positioning strategy. The third key to defining your brand position is that differentiation requires creative thinking. Now, when you go into the marketplace and you start to analyze your competitors, it's not going to be as easy as looking out and seeing a beautiful patch of grass with flowers on it and sunshine and sitting on top of the hill that your brand can just plop on top of that your competitors haven't thought of. It's not that easy when it comes to defining a differentiation strategy and defining a brand position. It really does need creative thinking, and you need to think outside the box of what your brand can do differently. A lot of your competitors will probably have been in the market for years, and if you're in a really competitive space, you're going to have a lot of competitors all vying for the attention of your audience. So defining a differentiation strategy and defining a gap is about creating a gap. It's about thinking outside the box and looking at your audience and what they need, what their pain points are, and what you can do differently to create a differentiator, to create a new idea that didn't previously exist. So finding your position in the market is not necessarily about finding your position, it's about creating a position for your brand that didn't previously exist. Now, coming up with an idea is not enough either. You can't just think, okay, well, this sounds like a great idea, that's going to be our position, that's going to be our differentiator, and that's what we're going to run with. There's a lot of things that you need to consider within your differentiation strategy, much in the way a military platoon would need to complete a mission. The commander of that platoon is not just going to decide, okay, we need to do this, let's go. He's going to take a step back and he's going to look at the landscape. He's going to look at the civilians, their location and their movement. He's going to look at the enemy, where they're placed, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And then he's going to map out a strategy of the best way to accomplish that mission. It's the exact same when it comes to your positioning strategy. There are a lot of elements at play. You need to have a look at what those elements are, where they're placed, and the best way for you to navigate around those elements so that you can effectively place your idea within the mind of your audience. So before you define what your differentiator is, before you define what your big idea is, have a look out into the marketplace, have a look at all of those elements that are out there and strategize your best approach. And if you do that successfully, if you do that effectively, then your audience will associate your brand with an idea and you've managed to plant your brand in the position in their mind. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and there'll be more videos like that. If you've got any questions, pop them in the box and I'll be happy to answer them for you, and I will see you in the next video.